guys, thanks for joining us on Family Life today here on YouTube.
Make sure you subscribe. You don't want to miss any episodes, so hit the little bell and you'll get notifications and you won't miss anything. And if this encourages you, like it and share it with your friends.
Yeah, share it with your friends.
Yeah, welcome to Family Life today.
The examples and the attitude towards me really helped me to see the best in myself. And then now I began to excel. Like, if they believe so, then I should get an A, If they believe so, then I should go the next grade. If they believe so that I'm good, maybe I should go to their home and not feel like I have to sit on the exit door. Small by small, those walls began to crumble. And then I began to see the best that I didn't know because they showed me what the best is.
Welcome to Family Life Today, where we want to help you pursue the relationships that matter most. I'm Dave Wilson.
And I'm Ann Wilson. And you can find us at FamilyLifeToday.com or on the Family Life app.
This is Family Life Today. So every once in a while, you come across a story that is so remarkable, you're like, the world just needs to hear it.
Today is one of those stories, and we started yesterday. And if you didn't hear yesterday, the start, you're going to need to go back and
listen. There's no way I can capture it all in 1 minute or so. But we've got Peter Mutabazi back with us in the studio. Your book is called Now I Am Known, and that title carries so much significance now after yesterday's story about how you didn't even have a name on the streets of Africa until you were 2 years old.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, Peter, welcome back.
Thank you. Truly joy to be back here.
The subtitle is How a Street Kid Turned Foster Dad Found Acceptance and True Worth. So right there, we're like, street kid, now you're a foster dad. So I don't want to get too far ahead, but literally from the streets till how old? 10 years old? No, 10 years old when you ended up on the streets.
Correct.
And then, you ran away from home.
Yeah, your dad was abusive. You had to find a new life. Again, that's all, we covered all that yesterday. To this remarkable moment when a man that you're getting food from who shops at the market asks your name.
Mm-hmm.
And that man ends up having an incredible impact in your life. So here's where we ended yesterday. He invites you to school. Say you want to go to school and there's 3 meals a day at that school. So you're like, yes, I'm in. So now you're at this school.
Mm-hmm.
At least you're eating. You haven't really gone to school yet, but tell us what happens from there.
So then, as I said yesterday, that I figured out the only way to get this food is to go to class. So I started going to class. I didn't know, my behaviors as a street kid. I mean, they were the opposite of everything you could imagine in a boarding school. But teachers were really kind in some way that what I did or what I said didn't really affect who I was. They still welcomed him in class.
Were you suspicious of their kindness?
Oh, yes. I mean, everyone, even kids, when they would ask me, can you come and play soccer with us? I'd be like, what do you want? Because that's what people always did. If you ask me to do something, that means I got to pay in some way, somehow.
So did you push people away, or what was your behavior like?
Fighting, flight mode, and don't get to me, stay away. And I think as a street kid, I'd been rough in some way. Like, you knew how to protect yourself is fight. Physical is all I knew. So if I can hit you before you respond, I'm good. And I realized, like, I can't do that in school, but I knew how to keep myself away by keeping them, a distance.
Were there any other street kids there, or were you alone?
I was the only one.
Only one.
And here's the thing. I had never had a pair of shoes, ever, until that day he took me to school.
So you're 14 years old.
No, I'm 15 now.
15 with your first pair of shoes.
First pair of shoes. I never wore a uniform, so I had to wear a uniform. And here's the other strange part. I only had one pair of clothes. One pair. So now he'd give me a bag of about 6 pairs of clothes. So you can imagine that you have these clothes. And I never slept on a mattress until when I went to the boarding school. When I grew up, we slept on the floor, and the oldest, me being the oldest, will sleep at the end, and the second oldest will sleep at the other end so we can keep the little ones warm. But we didn't have a mattress or blankets, or if we had, it didn't really cover us the whole night. So being in school, I was given a bunk bed and it was, I think, the above bed. And I mean, that threatened me and I was afraid of sleeping like there's no way. So for the first month, I slept on the floor. And they understood. I was like, I've never slept on a bed, and so I'm not comfortable. So they let me sleep on the ground because that's what I knew. To this day, I don't think I can sleep on a bed with a pillow. I don't know how to use a pillow.
To this day.
To this day.
Wow.
You know? So yes, I was rough in every way shape you could think of. So, but once I started going to class, I would get F in everything. But once I would get a D. And then the teachers would say, Peter, that is so awesome that you really did well. Then I'm like, really? But here's what he did. The man who took me in, he introduced me to his family after I'd been in school for 3 to 4 months. And for the very first time, now I began to see what family is. The first time he invited me to his home, I went. And it was lunchtime, it was Sunday. The table set up food. So for me, instead of sitting at the table, I had to look for an exit door. Because I knew something's about to happen. And if it's bad, I need to know what's my exit strategy. So I did not sit. I just stood by the door and waited.
Did you wonder if he would beat
Well,
his
that's what I was
family?
waiting for.
Yeah.
For my dad, we always ate before he came home. If he came home before meal, that meant that meal was going to go thrown away. Or you're going to be bitten with it. We would always eat hiding or make sure that he wasn't there before. So for me to watch a family sit at the dining table and the dad is there, so I'm kind of waiting. Something bad is about to happen.
How many children did they have?
They had 5 and they had maids as well. So they had other families. So they were about maybe that day 10 or 12 people. So in my head, all was something bad is about to happen. So where's my exit? So I sat there. But then as soon as they started praying, they said, hey, Peter, here's a chair for you on the table. And I hesitated. So he said, no, Peter, come on, you're a guest. Have a seat. And that too made me really emotional in some way because for the first time, you're in a strange family and they have a table and a chair for you that you've been invited on a table. And that really for me began to like, okay, this maybe is true that nothing wrong is going to happen. But 2, just began to see what family is because we ate the whole meal, but there was no fights. There was no one cussing the other. They all ate, they smiled, and they talked. And I think by the time I went back to school, I was like, I want that family, I want that family. And it's strange sometimes the examples or the things we show that people had never experienced. I didn't know what family was. And here I was watching it happen. And walking away, I wanted that in my life.
Oh, it just reminds me of Jesus has a seat for us at the table.
Yes.
And he calls us by name.
Yes.
You're experiencing a little piece of heaven.
In small increments that I didn't know.
Yeah, they were so strange to you.
Yes, strange in every shape, form you could think of. Like, they can't be. And so when I left, even then I doubted. I was like, it was a show. That was a show for me, for just so I can see it. But then it happened the next week, and that's when I began to realize that, okay, these people are kind, that they really love me. And it wasn't the food, it was the chair that they would let me sit on the table. Because all my life, I had to eat it quickly because my dad was going to come home, And then as a street kid, I had to steal it and then eat it quickly before they took it away. And as a street kid too, we were little, so the bigger boys would even if we roast the food, if they came before, they would take it. So I had lived the life of, I got 2 seconds to have this meal and I'm not sure I'm going to have it. And here you're sitting at the table. And not only they give you a meal, they give you a chair to sit and be part of the family. And I think that's really what began to really help me see that I was worthy. It wasn't that they made me, but I was worthy in some way for them or to be. And I started doing well in school because the teachers said, so if I got a D, they say, wow, that's wonderful. Then I'm like, I can get a C maybe, And the more I had words of affirmation, the more I had words of wisdom towards me, the more I began to believe myself. Like, wait a minute, if they believe that I am, then maybe I am, And they used 12 words of affirmation that I memorized to this day, that you belong. You're chosen, you're a gift to us. Like wait, I'm a gift to you? Are you sure? Peter, you're chosen to be part of our family. Like, wait a minute. all these years, you mean I was chosen to be part of you? And so the more I had this, the more I began, like those wounds began to heal,
I'm guessing some of the walls started to come down.
Absolutely. I try to explain the best way possible. In Uganda, we have a fish called tilapia, and it has scales on it. In order to eat it, you have to remove the scales in order to have it. And I feel that's what they were doing for me. The wounds, the shame, the abuse that I had had all these years, those words of affirmation, those words that you belong, those invitations you can sit on the table began to take off the shells, the wounds, the walls, that I began to really see the best in me, that they saw the best in me when I could not see, and I began to believe that.
I mean, it's such a picture of the gospel, the kingdom of God inviting us to the table. So you sit there, you eat, you start to excel in school.
When did you start to dream?
Oh, well, maybe a year later, when I started to see, I could get a C. Wait a minute. And they could invite me to go stay for holidays for 3 months. Then I began to, because now I had something to dream about. I saw his family. I was like, I would love to have the same family. I saw how he treated his family. Now I began to say, I want to treat people that way. The teachers, the social workers, or the people at church, they began to see the best in me that I didn't see. Then I began to believe, like, maybe there's something good about me, So the examples and the attitude towards me really helped me to see the best in myself. And then now I began to excel. Like, if they believe so, then I should get an A, If they believe so, then I should go the next grade. If they believe so that I'm good, maybe I should go to their home and not feel like I have to sit on the exit door. Small by small, those walls began to crumble. And then I began to see the best that I didn't know, because they showed me what the best is.
Mm-hmm. And did you end up graduating?
Yeah, so I graduated high school, and then I got a scholarship to go study at the university in Uganda. So I went to Makerere University, and then I got a scholarship to go study in England. So then I went to England to study, and then I went back to Uganda, and then I got another scholarship to come to United States. So you see how the kindness of one stranger, on how truly, have taken me that far. I can tell you, I am not the smartest guy on the planet, but because they saw the potential, because they believed in me, it really helped me excel, because I had someone that not only counting on me, but believing that I had everything possible to do what anyone can do as a kid. And I think that's why I excelled in school.
And when did you go back home?
So, I loved my mom, so much that I knew she was still going through the same abuse. But I'm the oldest of 6 boys and 1 daughter, that I wanted to give them the example that had been given. It's cool when you see what life should be, what dream means, that you want to also your family to have the same experience, that I knew I could not take them away from my family, but at least I can show them how far I had gone, that they can do the same.
Were you nervous?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was nervous, but I went home more to show my dad, like, you wanted the worst for me, but guess what?
Yeah.
That did not happen. So I went with an ego and attitude, I think.
A little chip on your shoulder.
Exactly. Like, hey, you thought I'm nothing, but I'm not really nothing in some way. But I think I wanted my mom to know that I was okay, and I was comfortable.
How did they respond?
And how old were you? Where were you in life at that point?
This time I'm 18, 19.
Okay.
That's when I went home. Someone had seen me on the street, so told my mom that, hey, we saw your son. I think he knew the instinct she'd instilled in me, principles and values and working hard in some way that I would survive the street life. I think there was something in her that she knew I could. If I could survive my dad's abuse every day, I can survive any street life in some way. And in some way, she kind of had faith that I'll be okay. So they were a little bit shocked to know that I was just not okay. But I was in school. I was speaking English. I had clothes. I had aspirations. I had dreams. I was excited about life.
You were going to go to college. Had anyone gotten as far as you had, even graduating from high school?
Not anyone in my family at all.
So this is big.
Did you ever go back and see the street kids that you lived with?
Yes. Later, I think I would go visit once in a while, to see how they were doing. But also they realized just we had a different life and different goals in life.
Yeah.
Every time I went home, to see them, they would think about who do we steal or what do we sold, how do we eat it. Well, for me now, I'm beginning to say, man, I want to get an A. I'm not just going to D. I want to excel. And I could see just how far apart we become. But they still cared for me. They were always excited every time they saw me. And here's what they would always say. They call, so for us, anyone who's doing well, we call them Muzungu. Muzungu means a white person or educated person. So they will say, now you're Muzungu. Now you're like educated, rich person. So you don't forget us. That's why they will always say that's not for us. But you have it. Please don't forget us when you get back or one day. That's what they always said.
Take us back to when you and your dad met again for the first time. What was he like toward you?
The first time I saw my dad, I think he was really ashamed. I could tell. Like, he didn't say much, And I think for me, that told me the shame and the guilt in some way. That he didn't say much. He didn't want to see me. I had never sat with my dad and seen him eye to eye ever. Never in my life had I ever sit across him. But this time I was able to sit across the table. And in some way, with pride and somehow, hey, man to man, I'm not afraid you. I think that really scared him in some way.
Did you say that to him?
No, I didn't say that. I just said, I'm here for a few days and I'm going back to school. And I think him seeing how far I had gone, seeing the potential that others had seen in me, I think brought shame to him. Like, wait a minute, Actually, a few years later, I went back and he calls my adopted family, my dad. He said, Peter, your dad has taught me what a father ought to be. And I think for me, that really helped me to never ask him for forgiveness. Like, he was saying it in a way the best he understood, that I wasn't a good dad, neither am I a good dad, but he's a good example of a dad. And I think he's taught me what a father should treat his kids, how, a father should see potential in his kids. And how a father should love his kids. He loved me. He was not my dad. He didn't know where I came from. He didn't know what my last name was. But somehow he loved me as though I was his son.
And what about spiritually? What did that look like, that journey to know Jesus?
Oh, to know Jesus. So I had the gospel every day. Of course, living, they were believers. They loved Jesus. So I had every day. But I think I struggled with, especially the Lord's Prayer, forgive even those who've wronged against us. To me, I was like, come on. We can forgive people, but there are some we should not. And that includes my dad, I had so much hatred towards him. My plan was to go back home and break his legs. Like, I really wanted to put harm and a mark of, here's what you did for me, and I can pay back. So that's what I really wanted to do. So for me, the gospel kind of really contradicted what I wanted to do. So he's forgive those who forgive him those who've wronged you. I hate my dad and I want to harm him. So I did not become a believer, but I acted like one. But inside I was like, no, I would rather harm my dad than be a believer. So during the genocide in Rwanda, my dad is from Rwanda, and my adopted family or foster family asked me if I could go rescue children in Rwanda. By then, he worked for Compassion International, and Compassion was really bringing relief to the kids. So, that's how I got my first job. I was like, sure, I can go. And my first day in Rwanda, I saw more than 2,000 dead bodies. At 19, 20, you get to see that. There's no way I thought I could go back, So what happened was I told the driver, I said, look, I know we're going to die, but I know I'm not going to go to heaven. And he said, Peter, you work for Compassion. You go to church. You are a believer. I said, no, I look like one. I act like one, but I don't know him as my Lord and Savior. I hate my dad with guts that I did not want to know him. And I said, could you pray for me? And so he prayed for me. And that's when I became a believer. Because when I saw the dead bodies, I thought, how could people do that to other human beings? But then I looked in my own heart, because that's what I wanted to do to my dad. So before I can point a finger to these people who had taken lives, that I knew I was capable of doing so. And at that moment, I think I knew I needed Jesus. I needed to let go of the anger. And it made sense now that he died on the cross for me, that wasn't my job to do. That wasn't my part to play, that I wanted to do so bad. And as soon as I felt that, I felt like I lost 100 pounds. Like, wow, okay. And that's how I became a believer.
Wow. So that forgiveness, like by giving your life to Jesus.
Did that take away the anger toward your dad, or what happened?
Yes, it took away the anger, because at that moment I felt like, because he was still ruling my life. He was still governing my life. He was still dictating my life, because most of my life was really filled with anger, And by letting go, I felt like now I have my future. Now I can dream those dreams that I began to have without letting my dad, not my dad, but the attitude, the anger towards my dad ruin that I wanted to do the best I can for me and for those ahead of me without my dad in some way taking it. And I knew the only way to do so was to forgive. Not that I was seeking forgiveness from him, but for myself, that I needed to forgive. And also look at my past not as a bad thing, but use it as a foundation to use it to do good. Here's how. So every time I got in trouble, my foster parents would say, Peter, do you know the life of Joseph? And I would say, yes, I know. He said, do you know what Joseph did when he saw his brothers? I would say they panicked. So what did he do? He said, for what you meant for evil, God used it for good to save lives. And that's how he would always help me. And in some way, I memorized those words he would ask me. And I realized that I needed to use my journey, my life, my past as a way, as a foundation to use it for good, not for bad. I would never wish any child to go through, but I don't think I would want to change my life if I could go back. I think I would let it be what it is, because it really helped me understand grace, understand mercy, understand forgiveness, in ways that I don't think I would have understood had I had just an easy life.
And your life is remarkable with what you're doing now.
Yeah, tell what you're doing now. I mean, this foster dad thing, what is this?
Oh, this foster thing. So when I came to the United States, I learned about foster care, and I thought, man, those kids sound like they're me, unloved, unwanted, living from home to home. And I saw myself. And I think Luke 12:48, who much is given, much is required. Like, I knew I had been given so much that I wanted to do the same for what someone had done for me. But I had traveled over the world. I had never seen a Black person adopting kids in Ethiopia or in Uganda. They were always, married couple, Caucasian, and I didn't look anything. So I thought, there's no way. So, but I really wanted to do what this man had done for me.
And you were living now in the United States. Yes. What were you doing?
So I was working for Compassion International, So my job was advocating for kids all over the world. But I would go see them in a different country and then come back and sleep in my nice bed, And that really didn't sit well, because I felt like there's more I can do, especially for what he done for me. And knowing the kids in the foster care, knowing the numbers, I was like, I want to do something. So I walked in the foster care and I said, hey, anyway, I can mentor kids, because I knew I'm single. I didn't mention the other, but I was like, I'm not sure you take single men. And the lady said, no, you can be. And I said, where's the paperwork? Because I want to sign it now before I leave. She gave me the paperwork. Well, 4 months later, I got my first placement. And I think that really opened the whole dreams that I've always wanted, to change a life for another one in my own family. But I think as a dad, I'd always long to be a dad, like to show my dad maybe what a father ought to be, because I didn't have one, and I've always longed to be a dad. And I think that gave me an opportunity to be dads to kids who needed a dad, to be dads to kids who grew up like me, to be dads to kids who had the same trauma as a kid that I went through, that I knew I can see it from a mile, but at the same time that I was loved unconditionally, that I can do the same for them and for their parents as well. So I fought at 12. And number 12 is the one I adopted. And the way I adopted him, it wasn't like I wanted to. So I had two little siblings. They had left for reunification with their parents. And I was beat. I was like, man, it's really hard to love on these kids and let them go. So I needed a break. I said, I'm going to take 3 months off. So I told my social worker, I need a month off, 3 months off. This is on Monday. On Friday, I get a phone call. Hey, Peter, is there a way you could take in a kid? I said, no, I told you, I need 3 months, But she said, please, this kid is at the hospital and he just needs just a weekend. Please, just a weekend. I said, okay. I don't want to know anything about him because I didn't want to get attached. So I said, I don't want to know anything. You better pick him on Monday. So, well, he came at 3 a.m. As soon as he walked in.
How old was he?
11. So he looks at me and I said, my name is Peter Mutabazi, but it's African, it's long. Just call me Mr. Peter. And he looks at me with big eyes. But can I call you my dad?
Come on.
Yes, Anna, but this is how I replied. Oh, no.
Not
And
going to happen.
Exactly. He looked at me like, what? And then he said, but I was told I'm 11. Now I can choose who my father should be. And I want you to be my dad. I still said, no, sir, no. And I said, you're leaving on Monday, so there's no need to call me dad. So this is me. It's funny when you ask God to give you something and he gives it to you and you say, not today. This kid is asking for a dad. I'm just there saying, no. So on Monday, they came to pick him up. Since I had signed the paperwork, I was like, now I can know what happened. So I said, what happened? They said, well, he came to the foster care at 1.5 years. He was placed with a family that adopted him at 4. And that family just dropped him at the hospital and they never told him why they didn't want him anymore and why they were giving him back to the state. So this is 11-year-old and I'm hearing this story and I'm going back to my own life at 10 and I'm thinking, who could do that? You adopt a kid for 9 years and you wake up one day and drop him in the hospital? I mean, I saw my own life in the flash right there. And I told the social worker, like, look, I think he knew I'll be his dad and he's already called me dad. So just give me the sticking paperwork.
Really?
So he gave me papers. 18 months later, I adopted him as my son, Weird how I didn't want to. And I was mad, and God had prepared a way for me to be his dad. And so since then, I've had 24 kids. Well, today or tomorrow, I might have 26. But it's truly been a joy. Right now, I have 4, and we're going through the process of adopting the 3. So it's a joy, but I found my calling. Like of all things, I found my calling to truly be a dad to the fatherless.
Is that your calling? You're a father to the fatherless?
Yes, that's my calling.
So it's never going to end. You're going to keep going.
Absolutely. And that's why I wrote that book, to make others known. He made me known. I did not have a name. He made my name known. I did not have a place to belong. He made me belong. I did not have faith. He helped me know Christ as my Lord and Savior. I never thought of dreaming in any shape, form. But he's helped me dream places that I never thought I could be. I was hopeless. He gave me hope. And that's why this book is all about, to truly give hope to others, to make others known that if I can be the odds of what I went through, anyone can, anyone can through the kindness of those who love us. But too, on the other side, that most people who see me as dad, they're like, man, you're a good dad. Well, I'm not sure I'm a good dad, but I had someone who showed me what a father ought to be. At a time when I didn't have one, he showed me what a father ought to be. But also, we can't just, our past, yes, is ugly to some of us, but we can use it for good, to know I could have let my dad ruin my future for the rest of my life. But choosing to say, how do I use my past as a foundation to do better and save others has been the best tool, I would say, And I wanted to encourage anyone to say, see your own life and say, how do I use it for good? How do I use it to better myself, but to better others as well? And that's my calling, to make others known.
We'll hear a few takeaways from Dave and Ann in just a minute. But first, Peter's book is called Now I Am Known: How a Street Kid Turned Foster Dad Found Acceptance and True Worth. You can pick up a copy at FamilyLifeToday.com. Earlier this week, Dave and Ann talked with Tim Muehlhoff, who wrote a book called Eyes to See, about recognizing God's common grace in the world around us. We'd love to send you a copy of it. It's our thanks to you when you partner financially with us. You can give online at FamilyLifeToday.com or by calling 800-358-6329. That's 800-F as in family, L as in life, and then the word today. And as a listener, we are incredibly thankful for you. We want to make you aware of this upcoming opportunity to walk alongside our mission and participate in the Christmas gift guide. Yes, Christmas, it's happening. The sale is happening from November 18th today up through the 28th, where you can get up to 60% off on 12 different resources that we've picked out. Things like a Weekend to Remember gift card, the new No Perfect Parents small group course, and actually a book I wrote called Pressure Points, a guide to navigating student stress. This is a resource that I wrote specifically for college students to help them walk through the unique pressures of living as a student for 4 years in college. To find out more about the Family Life Christmas gift guide, head over to FamilyLifeToday.com. Okay, here's Dave and Ann with a few takeaways from today's conversation.
Your story is inspiring, crying through the whole thing practically. And I think that's a great reminder that our Father, the God in heaven, calls each of us. I love that you're adopting, you're fostering. And I feel like especially now, like maybe it's a time for us to say, God, how do you want to use me and my story and my past pain for your glory?
I mean, in some ways, there's going to be hundreds of thousands or maybe millions of babies born.
Correct.
In this country that wouldn't have been born. And many of them are going to need homes, and they're going to need people with hearts like yours to say, here I am, Lord, send me. I'll be his dad. I'll be his mom. I'll be fostering or adopting. Thank you.
Next week on Family Life Today, Dave and Ann Wilson talk with Josh and Christy Straub to walk us through how to stay present at home and with your family. No one wakes up and decides, I'm planning to ruin my marriage, neglect my kids, and cause mistrust in my family. No. Yet our personal pursuits and busyness can lead us there sometimes. The Straubs are going to show how 7 core decisions can help us put what's most important center stage in our lives. That's next week. On behalf of Dave and Ann Wilson, I'm Shelby Abbott. We'll see you back next time for another edition of Family Life Today. Family Life Today is a production of Family Life, a crew ministry, helping you pursue the relationships that matter most.